Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Like a CEO with Simon Thomas and myself. We're excited to have Janet Tyler here, who's president of TrueDepth. She is an executive coach and management consultant, and she does some really incredible things. And she is one of the people that actually puts the TEDx Detroit together and helps people share their story. And so, Janet, I thought we could start there because you work with people to kind of take their life, their ups, their downs, their pains, their strengths, and then wrap it into an 18 or less minute story.
Yeah.
and thinking like a CEO, and whether you're a CEO or any part of any company, everybody, the power of storytelling is so important. And so I thought we could maybe start there. How do you get people to tell their story in a succinct way?
Well, I think first off, there's a certain amount of coaching. It's no wonder I've been gravitating towards becoming a coach over these past 5 years. Because if I look back in my 12-year history of producing TEDx Detroit, I've spent a lot of time in those early years trying to convince the executive or the individual, because not always executives, to have like that right dose of vulnerability and courage before you can come out and tell your story. And so we spend quite a bit of time on those two topics to see if we can draw out, that real story. Executives, you guys know this, they want to come in and talk about their title and their swag and here's my credibility. And that's about 5 to 10% of persuading anyone to do anything. So you maybe need a little bit of data, but that's only about 20 to 25% of the argument. The bulk of the persuasion and the storytelling that exists is around what you're really truly passionate about and how far you're willing to go to tell that story. And a lot of people say, you know what, I'm not ready. And that's okay. So oftentimes we've maybe made a selection, someone has submitted, we start to work with them about, okay, let's get to the real topic. Sometimes they say, you know what, this might not be for me. And that's okay. It's part of the process.
Yeah.
I mean, Janet, going into that, do you find it? I do. I find it amazing. I meet successful people all the time, and you're always impressed on their accomplishments, and then you really get to know them, and there's some challenges and issues there, and you kind of question, like, man, how do they get to the place that they're at? I mean, you run into that a lot.
Yeah, and I do think that some of that is just, and I don't mean like brute force, like they're evil, but it's the ability to push and work to the point where, okay, I now ascended to whatever this title is. But there's a ceiling for everyone, I believe. And unfortunately, I see executives, and not just women, kind of hitting that ceiling when the potential was there for them to do so much more. But oftentimes that's as far as they're willing to go. So yeah, I think there is a certain amount of, luck, fortitude, hard work that can get you kind of to the start line. But If you're really going to finish the race, and maybe retire or sell this business or whatever that exit is, you got to keep your mental game strong, but you also have to continue to learn and evolve. Otherwise, you tap out, you max out.
Yeah, but let's talk about hitting that ceiling that you're talking about, Janet, because I see that too, and I think, I think the ones I want to talk about the importance of mentorship. I'm a big believer that we all need 3 mentors. I'm a business coach. I have a business coach. I've always had a business coach, right? So, I know Simon has coaches. I know you have coaches, right? And you're a coach. So talk about the importance of early on incorporating mentorship and coaching into your daily life. So you really don't ever have a ceiling, and you can always keep on moving to the next level of potential.
Yeah. And I think the risk is you kind of surround yourself with people. I love mentors and, sometimes coaches, but you have to sometimes be careful if you've been with that coach for a long time. Have you tapped out together? And I just had to set a coaching client free last month. And it was hard because we've been working together for 4 years. And I just felt like, oh, I hate to see you go. But I knew that that's what he needed. I'm able to do some other consulting and some things in his organization. But I knew that I had given him everything that I had at that point. And so I'm really a firm believer in, hopefully providing impact, and also just being mindful of if you're the person that is putting together this tribe. I've got this level of advisors, I've got these consultants, I have this coach, just be mindful of the people that you're paying, and that hopefully they're not just telling you what you want to hear. And that's super hard to be the truth teller, right? And John, this probably even as much, if not more than I. Sometimes it can be really hard to be the truth teller.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of have that fearlessness to tell people, what you're really observing.
Yeah.
Whether you're a mentor, I don't care pick the title, advisor, consultant, mentor, coach,
Yeah.
Therapist.
Right. Well, and in return, the person needs to be, you need to kind of set that foundation that both parties need to be able to take feedback well and give, I hate the word constructive criticism, because to me, everything is constructive feedback to grow and reach past your ceiling and just get to that morsel of potential, right? Sometimes just growing that little smidge goes a really long way.
Yeah. And I think it's just, making sure that they're not telling you what you want to hear. Sometimes there's some tough love in there, but also you mentioned constructive criticism. There's positive and reinforcing criticism or feedback that a coach can provide, which is, because as the saying goes, and I know when I was an owner of my business, it's lonely at the top, right? Some days you're like, is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? And if you have a good coach to say, wow, that was great. So I love to get in there and kind of take a look at how my client is at work through memos, speaking with other executives that they're working with to really check in on how they're doing, but also tell them, hey, that was really great. Because sometimes nobody tells you that when you're at the top. You don't know on some days, unless you're able to access, which hopefully you are, your heart and your mind to tell, yes, that was a good thing. But sometimes executives need to hear it too, and rarely do. And Simon, you would know, maybe they do it all the time at Adobe.
No, it's the truth. I mean, you build something. We're building something here from scratch, and you grind all day. You give up your life, you give up your finances, you give up your family. You do all these things to, you pour everything into it, and you hear 95% of the time you only hear the negative, and you got to just kind of, kind of shrug it off and just say, let's keep going. And that's a mental thing that is not for everybody. And I say it all the time. I just actually said that comment to our COO, Michael Patterson. I'm like, it's lonely at the top, man. You're going to make decisions. You're going to do things that, you got to just keep going and know that they're right. And you're not going to have a bunch of people that you're collaborating with, because if you listen to everybody, Henry Ford has the best. I read his, one of my favorite quotes from Henry Ford. He's like, if I asked everybody what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And it's kind of the truth. If you get everybody involved, we're just going to keep doing the same thing. And it is, it's kind of cool to hear you say that. But Janet, what made you want to get into, when did you realize this was your calling?
When I was in my business, which is a marketing services firm, that grew relatively large with 3 offices, a global footprint, and it was kind of exploding in the best way possible. I hired a coach, and he was the chief operating officer of Lotus Notes. And people thought, that's kind of weird. Why are you hiring this, technical COO kind of guy? I knew I always gravitated towards the operational side of developing professional services firms. And I really wanted to be better at that. And so this coach, who I had for 5 years in my life directly as my coach, was just modeling how to be a great coach to me for that entire period. And I did feel like when you go to coaching school and you become credentialed and certified, which takes a long time, it's about 365 hours of coursework and active coaching that you're being monitored. I realized, wow, I had a great coach. And you don't know it when you're doing it, but you're like, this guy was amazing. And so his name is Michael Ballack, and he's amazing. And so I knew back then, this is going to be part of part of my future. And I didn't know exactly when or what. I sold my business in 14 and then decided to take a chief operating officer role in a IT services firm to help them grow. And I did that for about 4 years and just didn't feel right. And I think I kind of got the calling too to be in my own business again, quite frankly. And just, once you do something like this for 14, as for me, in my case, 14 years, building and growing a business, like you said, it's really hard to let go and take a job, when you feel like you have a calling. And so this is where I'm at. It's only been 2.5 years. I started this business really in mid 2017. And I stayed on with Red Level until 18, kind of to transition to a new COO.
That's great.
I love it. That's a great story, Janet. That's a great story. I've enjoyed getting to know you since we were introduced a while ago. And one of the things that you do is, help people create their own success stories. And so I love you sharing your story about how you find your calling, and, it makes perfect sense. And I know how many people you help on a regular basis. But, the word success sometimes is up for people's own personal, sometimes, interpretation. So when you talk about creating people's success stories, how do you define success?
I don't define it at all. My clients do.
Yeah. How do you find they define it? And how should they define it? Because I think success is a lot about small wins. I think sometimes people think so big and you just got to kind of, bring it down. I'm just curious how you guide your clients to the, peak proximity pieces of success.
I think the question, the answer is it's variable, right? And it really depends on the individual. I mean, I have executives in large top innovation brands that I'm working with who are literally just trying to keep it together during COVID. You would never know it from the outside. But that's what they need to do to, get through the pandemic, coach and lead their teams. And so success for them might look like, working 60 hours instead of 80 hours. It might look like spending time with, their wives or their families. It could be meeting a financial metric or, solving this huge innovation problem that they're trying to unearth in their company. But it really depends. And the pandemic has really shown me just all kinds of interesting challenges, why I think coaching has exploded, this year in growth is that, people are really struggling to keep it all together. And if they tell you they've got it all handled, whether they need a coach or not, they probably really don't, because this is what has occurred this year. To say it's been upsetting or challenging, I think is a minor understatement.
Yeah.
So, Danny, you said if they need a coach or not. Do you ever run across where, and I think there's a fine line here between coach and mentor. So somebody who's been in your industry or somebody who has accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. Do you ever run across somebody that's trying, that you just realize they don't need a coach, or does everybody, and they probably need more of a mentor, or would everybody benefit from a coach?
That's a great question. And I think that there are candidates, right? And I know John knows this as well, where you go through the process and you're like, you know what, you're not ready for a coach, or you're not going to do well with a coach. And I usually know what those signs are. Great coaches don't give advice. So when I'm a management consultant, so I'm, coaching and advising companies on how to grow. But when I'm coaching, I think that's a very different mindset or discipline. And it's really not even mentoring, because mentoring is like, hey, look, Simon, I started a real estate company 20 years ago, and here's what I did. And it's a little bit different even than coaching, which is really more about empowering, asking the right questions, getting you to kind of uncover, what the next thing is for you. There's almost always a gap, though. And what I find is for executives, you say, I don't need a coach, I got this down. If you really start to look at, I'm pretty good at, developing a culture of innovation. I think I've done okay. And you say, okay, well, what would it be like if you were really great? And then it's like, aha, that's the gap. So if I'm a coach, I'm going to zone in on the gap, whether they hire me or not. But sometimes it takes, there are some assessments and some tools and some things depending on where that executive is, particularly CEOs who have been the owner operator of their business for 10, 15, 20 years without a coach. It's like you're tagging in. You're like, let me help. And sometimes you can do it and sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
They're not, we have a bunch of sales agents here and they're always asking and looking for some, support and help. And we've come across a lot of different coaches. And is it an energy thing when they meet the coach, if they interview and talk, that's how they should make their decisions? Or they should be asking certain questions? I mean, what is the best approach for, finding a coach that's compatible to you?
For me, I think it's definitely, and I know there's a lot of disagreement, and John might even disagree. I believe strongly in the certification and the credential process through the International Coaching Federation. Unless you are an industry expert, meaning I'm not credentialed or certified, but I have been working in the real estate business for 40 years. So therefore, that would maybe qualify. But to me, coaching is such a specific skill set, one that I wish I would have had access to when I was an owner operator, by the way, because even though I had a coach, it didn't really occur to me like, oh, wow, I could be coaching all the people that I work with. I don't know why it really didn't occur to me. And I'm sorry, Simon, I lost track of the question.
when you meet with a potential candidate.
Yes, sorry. It's early.
So that happens sometimes, right?
See my Lions coffee cup a little more. Oh. So yes, it's
what's in that coffee cup, right?
It's my Lions coffee cup. Come on, baby. I would say it's what I would call the best fit conversation. And any good coach is going to say, let's schedule at least 30 minutes and make sure that there is an energy match, or at least I find sometimes my energy is high. Sometimes executives are like, whoa. So I say, okay, great. Well, here are 3 other, John might be one of them, or I say, here are some other coaches that you should talk to. And it's literally for me, that's part of my business. It's like, I might do 3 or 4 of those best fit conversations every week. And, maybe about half end up in a relationship, if less, and maybe less, because it really is such a personal thing. So if they've hit all the criteria of, yes, they qualify to be an executive coach and not just a mentor, then it's really about that best fit. And a good coach will lead that best fit conversation, so that the coachee is just kind of having a conversation. It's not like, let's practice what the coaching session would look like. That's not what it's about. It's just getting to know each other, understanding some of the philosophies, the way that the coach works. You'll know right away. If the coach is just like, oh, they're asking me so many questions, this is uncomfortable, I don't like this, then they should talk to somebody else. So, good companies like yours, Simon, might have a roster of, 6 to 8 coaches. And then you let your people choose the coach that's the best fit for them.
Yeah. I would add on to that.
I should say, yeah, John.
Well, I would add on to that if you get a coach, you got to be willing, you got to do the work. And so, Simon, to your question, like, does everybody, who needs a coach? Are there some people that don't need a coach? If you're not willing to do the work, then don't get a coach. Yeah.
And it's so crucial. I mean, it's you just like it's your business, it's your life, it's time, it's money spent. And if it's not the right person, you find that out a year later, that's time you can never get back. I mean, that's why I'm sure you pretty much don't go that long if you realize they're not the right fit for both of you. But it's crucial. I tell our people all the time, just make sure they're a great fit for you and go, and like you said, John, follow their lead and commit and meet them in the middle, but be prepared to work.
Yeah. And we know, coaches know, like, oh, you didn't really do, and it's not like I'm a big homework person, but there are times when I say, I just recommended this book to a woman client. I love this book, Playing Big. And I know she didn't I know she hasn't read it, we met a couple of weeks and I said, okay, well, we're not going to talk about, so there are times, and whatever, life gets busy, that can go on for a little while. But if I'm saying to her, hey, here's a recommendation, or here's something I'd like for you to work on, my expectation is they're coming to the next coaching session saying, oh my gosh, Janet, I read this chapter in this book and you were right. I had this aha, or this is what I've changed, or here's what I tried. It's not like they're going to do always a worksheet or fill out or read a book, but there is an expectation that they're going to try on some of these new tools that they're learning through the coaching process. Jen, and that's the work. And also the mental lift of making these changes is significant.
Jenna, talk about for a minute, Simon and I are under the belief that, everybody should think like a CEO, right? No matter what position you are within a company. You need to think like a business owner. If you're a salesperson, you're building your pipeline. If you're a manager, you're building your people, et cetera, et cetera. And so when you to have the mindset of a CEO, what are some of the three kind of 1, 2, or 3 things that somebody needs to do every day consistently to really grow their business?
Well, I will tell you, leadership without influence just isn't leadership. So the first thing is to recognize that you are the chief influencer of others. So if you are in the secretarial pool, nothing wrong with that, and you're the CEO of your career, that might mean keeping your mindset positive, not bringing down the rest of the office at the water cooler. It could be that simple. Recognizing that no matter what role you're in, you have the power to influence others and how they feel and contribute to the organization. And so for me, when I'm in the coaching, I'm trying to understand how are you influencing your customers? And that might be something, my background in public relations and communications kind of gears me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little predisposed to that, because I also believe the second area of worth exploring is their personal brand. So if you're the CEO, you have a brand. If you are in the call center, blocking and tackling, taking customer issue calls, you also have a personal brand. And I think people rarely go through the exercise of understanding, what is my personal brand? So yes, CEOs have PR people and marketing people who are swirling about them, helping them figure out their brand. Most people, even at the sales level, maybe have thought about, what does my brand stand for? I think that would be something that I would also try to uncover and pull back the layers. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing, and I think this is where coaching is great, is what are your values? What do you stand for? And how does that come across in your work and your home life? So I coach people all the time who say, oh, I value financial independence. That's what I want. I want to save money. But then you realize that's like a core value to them, but then they're spending every penny they make. So they're not living the value that they're saying is core to them. And again, the coach says, gap. I'm going to probe. I'm going to pick there. I'm going to try to understand, because that means they're not in alignment. And you can't be the CEO of anything until you really have true alignment and focus. So those would be maybe 3 of the things that I would start to kind of pick at.
Good stuff. Good. All right, Jenna, you ready for the speed round?
Oh, no. Yeah, I guess. More coffee. Yes.
All right. More cool. Favorite, mine is, I know you just showed a book, but another favorite business book, and why?
Well, a classic is Jim Collins' Good to Great. I built my business on it. I actually bought a hedgehog that lived in my office. So I I've met him several times. I've actually kind of borderline stalked, followed him around at some point. And that whole series of books, I think for me is like, that's part of the Bible. And I also really enjoyed Jack Welch, some of his basic earlier publications as well.
Yeah. Both great people, both great, amazing books.
If I were going a little more on the woo-woo, I would maybe say Brene Brown, Dare to Lead. I think that, we do have a courage problem with our leadership today. Leaders who are really afraid to speak the truth for a multitude of reasons. I think her work is amazing.
Well, you started off today talking about vulnerability and courage, and Brene Brown's, her 2 TED Talks are 2 of the most popular TED Talks of all time. Daring Greatly, being in the arena, it's all about. I think it should be mandatory reading for every business person and every human being on the planet. Those are core things. Yeah.
Embracing the rumble, as she
Embracing
said.
the rumble. Simon, you got a question for Janet?
Speed round?
Speed round. Oh man, I wasn't prepared for this either. You say influencer a lot, and I know you kind of went into that a little bit, but name some maybe some historical influencers that you would say are people like I'm big right now into, like, I'm reading a lot of history stuff. So give me some, is there influencers in the past that you look up to or you studied or that motivate you?
Well, I mean, I have to say Oprah, because, think about the influence that she has yielded from, raising money for her all-girls school and the book clubs and Oprah's favorite things. And I mean, talk about someone who built influence over time to ascend to a certain point in her career. And then really, like, I don't know, like, atom bombed her influence, across multiple different streams. She would definitely be someone. And I love the fact that she's a woman, which I think is rare. And then of course, oh my gosh, the Kennedy family, if you want to go on the political reign, how they used their influence to do what's right for the country a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's great. Janet, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and who your ideal clients are.
My ideal clients are executives in either the professional services or technology arenas. It's small and mid-sized businesses. And I'm in Novi, Michigan. And I can be reached at janet@truedepth.com. And that's me.
Well, thanks for everything that you do, Janet. Thanks for everything that you shared today. Thanks for really putting TEDx Detroit on the map and really helping people understand, shape, build, and share their stories, because the ripple effect that it has is so positive on so many. And thanks to social media, they live on forever, especially the TED Talks. And I know the people that you coach as well. So thanks for everything that you shared today. And I'll let Simon close us out.
Thank you, Janet. I love your story. It's really cool to always meet new people on these podcasts. And sometimes, I've said this in the past, I'm an energy guy. Your energy is amazing, and I love it. So hopefully we can work together in the future. And I'm looking forward to future conversations.
I love it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you both. Have a great day.
Appreciate you too, Janet. Thanks, Simon. Thanks. This was fun. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Go get them.